Standing at the altar today, looking into Emma's eyes, I never imagined my life would lead here. She is beautiful, radiant, and most importantly, she is the sister of my ex-wife. 16 years ago, I lost everything because of a lie. My family turned their backs on me, my wife left while carrying our child, and I was beaten down by the people who were supposed to protect me. But here I am now, about to marry the one person who believed in me when nobody else did. To understand how I got here, I need to take you back to the worst night of my life. Before I dive into this story, I would love to know where you are watching from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you are interested in hearing how a lie destroyed everything I had, only for me to rebuild something even stronger, hit that like button and subscribe. Trust me, this journey has more twists than you would expect. It all started on a regular Tuesday evening in March 2008. Back then, I was 26 years old living in Denver, Colorado. I worked as a software engineer at a mid-sized tech company. The job was demanding but rewarding, and I had my eyes set on a promotion that seemed within reach. I was not rich, but I was comfortable. My wife Melissa and I lived in a cozy 2-bedroom apartment on the east side of town, the kind of place with creaky floors and a kitchen window that overlooked a small park where kids played soccer on weekends. Melissa and I had been married for 3 years. We met at a concert, one of those outdoor summer festivals, where the music is loud and the beer is cold. She was dancing with her friends, and I was there with mine. Our eyes met across the crowd, and something just clicked. We dated for a year before I proposed on a hiking trail near Boulder. She said yes, before I even finished the question. Life felt simple back then, full of possibility. At the time of this story, Melissa was 7 months pregnant with our first child, a boy. We had already picked out a name, Lucas. The nursery was half finished, with pale blue walls, and a crib we bought on sale from a furniture store that was going out of business. I remember spending an entire Saturday assembling that crib, cursing at the confusing instructions, while Melissa sat on the floor laughing at me. Those were good days. My family was not perfect, but I thought we were solid. My dad, Robert, was a retired construction worker, with rough hands and a gruff voice. He did not say much, but when he did, people listened. My mom, Patricia, was a nurse who worked night shifts at the hospital. She was the emotional center of the family, always checking in, always making sure everyone was okay. Then there was my older brother, Derek. He was 4 years older than me, worked in real estate, and had always been the golden child. My parents adored him. He could do no wrong in their eyes. Derek and I had a complicated relationship. Growing up, he was the athletic one, the social one, the one who got straight A's without trying. I was quieter, more introverted, the kid who spent weekends reading science fiction novels instead of throwing footballs. Our parents never said it outright, but I always felt like I was second best. Still, I loved my family. I thought they loved me too. At work, there was a woman named Tara. She was 28, had transferred from our California office about 6 months earlier. Tara was the kind of person who commanded attention when she walked into a room. She was outgoing, confident, always quick with a joke or a story. At first, I thought she was just friendly. She would stop by my desk to chat, ask how my weekend was, compliment my code during team meetings. I did not think much of it. I was polite, but kept my distance. I was a married man with a baby on the way. I was not interested. But Tara started pushing boundaries. She would text me after hours, asking if I wanted to grab coffee or lunch. I always declined or invited other coworkers to join us, trying to keep things professional. Melissa knew about it. I showed her some of the messages once, and we both laughed it off. I thought Tara would eventually get the hint and back off. I was wrong. That Tuesday in late March started like any other day. I woke up at 6:30, kissed Melissa goodbye, and drove to the office. We had a big project deadline coming up, so the whole team was working late. By 8 o'clock that evening, most people had already left. I texted Melissa to let her know I would be home soon. She replied that it was fine her younger sister Emma was visiting and keeping her company. Emma was 18, a freshman at the University of Colorado, staying with us for a few days during spring break. As I was packing up my laptop, Tara approached my desk. She looked stressed, her makeup slightly smudged, like she had been rubbing her eyes. She asked if I could stay an extra 15 minutes to help her fix a section of code that was not compiling correctly. It was a small request, and I had always been the kind of person who helped coworkers when they needed it. I agreed, thinking it would only take a few minutes. We went into one of the small conference rooms where it was quieter. Tara pulled up the code on her laptop, and I sat down next to her to take a look. At first, everything seemed normal. I pointed out a syntax error, walked her through the fix, and thought that would be the end of it. But then Tara started crying. Not just a few tears, but full-on sobbing. I froze. I had no idea what to do. I asked if she was okay if something had happened. She mumbled something about personal issues, about feeling overwhelmed. I sat there awkwardly, not knowing whether to comfort her or leave. Then she shifted the conversation. She said she had always felt a connection with me, that I was different from other guys at the office. I felt my stomach drop. This was not a conversation I wanted to have. I stood up and told her I needed to go home, that my wife was waiting for me. But before I could take a step toward the door, Tara stood up and hugged me. It was sudden, unexpected. I gently pushed her away and said clearly that I was married and about to become a father. I told her this was inappropriate and that I was leaving. Her expression changed instantly. The tears stopped. Her face went cold, almost blank. She looked at me and said, "You will regret this." I did not understand what she meant at the time. I just wanted to get out of that room. I grabbed my bag and left, my heart pounding. On the drive home, I felt uneasy. Something about the way she said those words stuck with me. I decided I would tell Melissa everything when I got home, just to be transparent. But I never got the chance. The next morning, I arrived at the office early. I noticed people staring at me as I walked to my desk. A few coworkers whispered to each other and looked away when I made eye contact. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was paranoid after the weird encounter with Tara the night before. Then my boss, Mr. Harrison, called me into his office. My stomach sank. He closed the door and gestured for me to sit down. His face was serious, more serious than I had ever seen it. He told me that Tara had filed a complaint against me, claiming that I had made unwanted advances toward her, and that the previous night I had tried to force myself on her. I felt like the floor had opened up beneath me. I could not breathe. I told him it was a lie, that the exact opposite had happened, that Tara had been the one pursuing me for months. I explained everything, but he just nodded, slowly taking notes. He said the company would investigate, but in the meantime, I was being suspended pending the outcome. I was told to go home immediately. I left the building in a daze, my mind racing. How could this be happening? I had done nothing wrong. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 20 minutes, trying to process what had just occurred. Then my phone rang. It was Melissa. Her voice was cold, distant. She said Derek had called her, that he had heard something about me and a coworker. She asked if it was true. I tried to explain, but she cut me off. She said Derek had heard it from a friend who knew someone at my company, that the rumor was already spreading. I begged her to listen, to trust me, but she said she needed time to think. The call ended abruptly. I drove home, but Melissa was not there. I called her multiple times, but she did not answer. I texted her, pleading with her to come home so we could talk face to face. Nothing. Hours passed. I sat on the couch, staring at the wall, feeling my life unravel in real time. By Wednesday afternoon, the situation had escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. A friend texted me, asking if I was okay, saying he had seen posts on social media about a tech guy cheating on his pregnant wife. I did not have to ask who they were talking about. I checked my phone and saw vague posts from people I barely knew, all alluding to the same thing. Tara had not just told the company. She had told everyone. I called Tara. I needed to understand why she was doing this. She answered on the third ring. I asked her directly why she was lying. She laughed. It was a cold, bitter laugh. She said I had rejected her, humiliated her in that conference room. She said now I would know what it felt like to lose everything. I tried to reason with her, to remind her that she was destroying my life over nothing. She said she had already told multiple people that I had come on to her repeatedly for weeks, and that on Tuesday night I had tried to assault her. Then she hung up. I sat there, holding the phone, shaking. This was not just about my job anymore. This was about my reputation, my marriage, my future. I realized I needed to act fast, but I did not know where to start. That evening, Melissa finally came home, but only to pack a bag. Emma was with her, looking uncomfortable and sad. I tried to talk to Melissa, but she would not look at me. She said she was going to stay with her parents for a few days. I asked her to please believe me, to trust that I would never do what I was being accused of. She turned to me, with tears in her eyes, and said, "How can I trust you when everyone is saying the same thing? Even your own brother called to warn me about you." That hit me like a punch to the gut. My own brother. Derek. He had not even called me to ask my side of the story. He had gone straight to my wife to warn her against me. Melissa left with Emma, following quietly behind. As they walked out the door, I saw Emma glance back at me with a look I could not quite read. It was not anger or disgust. It was something closer to sympathy. But she said nothing. The next day, Thursday, Derek called me. I answered, hoping maybe he would give me a chance to explain. Instead, he launched into a tirade. He called me a disgrace to the family. He said Mom and Dad were ashamed of me. He said I had ruined everything. I tried to defend myself, but he would not listen. He said everyone knew what I had done and that I should be prepared for the consequences. Then he hung up. That evening I drove to my parents' house. I needed to talk to them face to face to make them understand that this was all a lie. My dad opened the door, and the look on his face told me everything I needed to know. He was furious. His face was red, his jaw clenched. My mom stood behind him crying. I stepped inside, but before I could say anything, my dad started yelling. He said I had disgraced the family, that I had betrayed Melissa, that I was no son of his. I tried to explain that Tara was lying, that she had fabricated everything because I had rejected her. Derek, who was also there, stepped forward and said, "Why would she lie? Multiple people saw you two alone together late at night." My mom sobbed and said, "And your wife is 7 months pregnant. How could you do this to her?" I kept trying to explain, but nobody was listening. My dad stepped toward me and shoved me hard. I stumbled back into the wall. Before I could react, Derek came at me and punched me in the face. I tasted blood. I did not fight back. I did not want to make things worse. My dad yelled at me to get out of his house. He said I was no longer his son. My mom turned away, still crying, but she did not stop them. I left. My lip was split. My left eye was swelling. I sat in my car outside their house for a long time, trying to comprehend what had just happened. My own family had assaulted me without even giving me a chance to defend myself. I called Melissa again. She did not answer. I called my best friend from college. He said he had heard the rumors and did not know what to believe. I was completely alone. Friday morning I received an email from the company. I had been terminated for misconduct. There would be no further investigation. Tara had provided statements from other employees who claimed they had noticed me acting inappropriately around her. It did not matter that it was not true. The decision was final. Later that afternoon, Melissa came to the apartment with Derek. She said she wanted to get the rest of her things. I begged her to stay to give me a chance to prove my innocence. She shook her head and said she could not raise a child with someone she could not trust. I looked at her pregnant belly and asked if I could at least be part of our son's life. She said, "You lost that right when you betrayed us." She packed her clothes, took her jewelry, and left her wedding ring on the kitchen table. Derek stood between us the whole time, glaring at me like I was some kind of monster. After they left, I sat alone in the apartment. The silence was deafening. I had lost my job, my wife, my unborn child, and my family all in less than a week. I had never felt so hollow. The days after that were the darkest of my life. I barely ate. I barely slept. I replayed everything in my mind over and over, trying to figure out what I could have done differently. But no matter how many times I went through it, the answer was the same. I had done nothing wrong. And yet, I had lost everything. On the Saturday after I was fired, I woke up on the couch where I had fallen asleep the night before. The apartment felt cold and empty. For a moment, I considered giving up entirely. But then, something shifted inside me. A thought crept in, quiet at first, then louder. I cannot let a lie define the rest of my life. I sat up and wiped my face. I remembered what Tara had said on the phone, her admission that she was doing this out of revenge. If she had said it to me, maybe there was a way to prove she was lying. I grabbed a notebook and started writing down everything I could remember. Every detail, every interaction, every text message she had sent me over the past 6 months. I documented the timeline of that Tuesday night. I wrote down the names of coworkers who might have noticed Tara's behavior toward me. By the end of the weekend, I had a plan. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in wrongful termination and defamation. He agreed to meet with me on Monday. When I sat in his office and explained everything, he listened carefully. He said I had a case, but I would need evidence. Tara's word against mine would not be enough. I needed to prove a pattern of behavior. I reached out to Mark, a coworker I had always gotten along with. He was one of the few people who still answered my calls. I asked if he would be willing to help. He hesitated at first, then admitted that he had always thought Tara was manipulative. He said he had noticed her pursuing me and that it had made him uncomfortable. He agreed to provide a statement. I used the last of my savings to hire a private investigator. It seemed extreme, but I was desperate. The investigator started digging into Tara's background. 2 weeks later, he came back with something that changed everything. Tara had worked at another tech company in California before transferring to Denver. At that company, she had done the exact same thing. She had falsely accused a male coworker of harassment after he rejected her advances. The man whose name was James had been fired. His marriage had fallen apart. His life had been ruined just like mine. The investigator had found emails, documents, and testimony from people at the California company. There was a clear pattern. I contacted James. He lived in San Diego, now working at a completely different job, trying to rebuild his life. When I explained what had happened to me, he was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "I lost everything too. I am glad someone is finally standing up to her." He agreed to serve as a witness and provided all the evidence he had kept from his own case. Armed with this information, my lawyer sent a legal notice to my former company. We presented all the evidence showing Tara's history of false accusations. The company panicked. They were terrified of a lawsuit. They agreed to reopen the investigation. This time, when Tara was confronted with the evidence, she could not maintain her story. When James appeared via video call to share his experience, Tara broke down. She admitted she had lied. She said she did it because I had rejected her, and she wanted me to suffer. The company issued a formal apology to me. They offered me my job back with back pay and compensation for damages. Tara was fired immediately and faced potential legal consequences for her actions. I had won, but the victory felt hollow. My job was restored. My name was cleared, but the damage had already been done. I took the evidence to my parents' house 2 months after the initial incident. It was May by then. Melissa had already given birth to Lucas. I had not been there. I had not even been told. I knocked on my parents' door, and my mom answered. I handed her a folder containing all the proof of my innocence. She read through it slowly, her face pale. My dad came to the door and read it too. When they finished, there was silence. I waited for an apology. I waited for them to say they were sorry for not believing me, for assaulting me, for disowning me. But it never came. My dad just said, "We are glad you are innocent, but the damage is done." My mom nodded. That was it. No remorse, no accountability. Derek was not even there. He refused to see me. I tried reaching out to Melissa. I sent her texts, emails, copies of the evidence. She had given birth to Lucas in early May. I begged for a chance to meet my son, to be part of his life. She never responded. Weeks went by. I realized she was too proud to admit she had been wrong. Or maybe she had just moved on. By August, I made a decision. I could not stay in Denver anymore. Every street, every building, every corner held a painful memory. I applied for jobs in other cities. Within a month, I received an offer from a larger tech company in Seattle, Washington. It was a senior engineer position with better pay and better opportunities. I accepted immediately. Leaving Denver felt like shedding an old skin. I packed up the apartment, sold most of my furniture, and drove west. Seattle was rainy and green, the complete opposite of Colorado's dry climate. I liked that. It felt like a fresh start. For the first 2 years in Seattle, I threw myself into work. I was promoted to team lead within 18 months. I made new friends, joined a hiking group, started seeing a therapist to work through the trauma of what had happened. I did not date anyone. I was not ready. I focused on healing. By 2010, I was promoted again, this time to engineering manager. I bought a small house in the suburbs, nothing fancy but mine. I started to feel like myself again. I learned how to let go of the anger, not because I forgave what had happened, but because holding on to it was destroying me. In 2013, I heard through an old friend, still living in Denver, that Melissa and Derek were dating. I felt a pang of pain when I heard the news, but it was not the devastating blow it would have been years earlier. In a strange way, it made sense. They deserved each other. Then, in 2016, something unexpected happened. I was back in Denver, visiting the one friend who had stood by me through everything. We met at a coffee shop downtown. As I was waiting in line, I heard a voice behind me. "Adrian." I turned around and saw Emma. She was 26 now, no longer the shy teenager I remembered. She had grown into a confident, kind-looking woman. She worked as a graphic designer, she told me, and had graduated from college 4 years earlier. We sat down and talked for hours. She apologized for what had happened, said she had always believed I was innocent, but had been too young and too afraid of her sister to speak up. She told me that Melissa and Derek had gotten engaged. She also told me that Lucas, my son, was now 8 years old and had no idea I existed. That hurt more than anything. Emma and I exchanged numbers. Over the next few months, we texted occasionally. She visited Seattle once, and we spent the day walking around Pike Place Market. There was something easy about being around her, something genuine. She understood pain in a way most people did not. Her own family had disappointed her too. By 2018, Emma and I were dating. It felt natural, unforced. We understood each other's scars. When I proposed to her on a beach in Oregon, she cried and said yes. We decided to get married in 2024, 16 years after the night that had changed my life forever. So here I am, standing at the altar, looking at Emma in her white dress. The ceremony is small, just close friends. No family from my past. No Derek, no Robert, no Patricia. And certainly no Melissa. But then, just before the ceremony is about to start, I see her. Melissa is standing at the back of the venue. She looks older, tired. My heart does not race. I do not feel anger or longing. I feel nothing. During a brief moment before we walk down the aisle, Melissa approaches me. She says she needs to talk. Emma squeezes my hand and steps away to give us space. Melissa starts crying. She says she is sorry. She says she and Derek divorced a year ago because he cheated on her. She says she realizes now that I was always the good one, that she made a terrible mistake. She says Lucas needs a real father, that Derek has been a disappointment. I listen quietly. When she finishes, I take a deep breath and say, I forgave you a long time ago, Melissa. Not for you, but for myself. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. My life is with Emma now. I wish you well, but you need to leave. She stares at me shocked, then turns and walks away. I watch her go and feel nothing but relief. The ceremony begins. Emma walks toward me smiling. As we exchange vows, I think about the journey that brought me here. 16 years ago, I was broken, destroyed by lies and betrayal. I lost everything. But in losing everything, I found out who I really was. I learned that the truth always surfaces, that taking action matters, and that sometimes you have to let go of people who do not deserve you. Emma and I are building a life together now in Portland, Oregon. We both have careers we love. We travel, we laugh, we heal each other. I do not think about my old family much anymore. I heard through mutual acquaintances that my parents regret how they treated me, that Derek's life fell apart after his divorce. But their regret does not change anything. I have moved on. Sometimes the worst betrayals lead you to the best chapters of your life. I lost a family that never truly valued me, but I gained a partner who sees me for who I really am. And if I could go back and change what happened, honestly, I would not. Because every scar, every tear, every sleepless night led me here, to this moment, to this person, to this life. The question is not whether you will face lies and betrayal in life. The question is whether you will let them define you, or whether you will rise above them and write your own ending. So let me ask you, have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted? How did you find the strength to move forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming the impossible. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that no matter how dark things get, you have the power to rewrite your future. Take care, and remember, your worth is not determined by those who fail to see it.